Good morning. Thank you for sharing a story with me today. Our story today is called The Sorcerer Who Stole Joy. Once upon a time, there was a powerful sorcerer who lived by himself in a castle at the top of a hill overlooking the tiny town of Littletown. And even though he was a powerful sorcerer who could use his magic to do almost anything he liked, there was no joy in his life at all. But the people of Littletown, he noticed, had lots of joy. Every day he could look down on the village from his castle and see little kids playing in the streets and adults working in their workshops, and people were singing and laughing and sitting down together to share meals and playing games and making music, just generally having a good time. I wish I had some of their joy, thought the sorcerer. And then he thought, well, why can't I? I'm a powerful sorcerer. And then he had a thought that was not a very nice thought at all. He thought, I will cast a spell to steal all of the joyful things from the town of Littletown so I can have them for myself. That night, he cast that powerful spell. And when the people woke up the next morning, all the colors in the town, every color was just the same shade of gray. Even the flowers and the balloons were all gray. And all the flavors of the candy had changed. The lollipops, the gummy bears, the taffy, even the ice cream. It all had just one flavor now, and that flavor was mustard. And the smells had changed, the flowers and the perfumes and even the smell of baking cookies. It all just had one smell now, and that was old bowling shoe. And the pizzas only had one topping, and it was caterpillars. Even the music was gone. No matter what music they tried to play or sing, it all came out with just the same way, and that was wah, wah, wah. Well, the people of Littletown were not very happy about this, and they suspected that the sorcerer had something to do with it. But they were too afraid to go up there and confront him. Except there was one young woman in the village of Littletown who was not afraid. Her name was Amelia, and she was angry. Every day she would come home from work and put on her favorite record, and the sound would be the same. Wah, wah, wah. Well, Amelia was getting angrier and angrier, and one day she had it. She decided to go up and confront that sorcerer. So she got up early and she climbed all the way up the tall hill overlooking the village to the castle. And she went up to the castle door, the giant wooden door, and she summoned up all of her courage. And she knocked on that door. And to her surprise, the sorcerer himself answered the door. And he was a mess. His clothes were all wrinkled, and his hair was all crazy, and he hadn't shaved in a week, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. And he grabbed her forcefully by the shoulders and said, "It doesn't work, it doesn't work. Why doesn't the magic work?" "What are you talking about?" said Amelia. "I cast a spell to take all the joyful things from Littletown and bring them into my castle, but it hasn't brought me joy at all." "What?" said Amelia. "That's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. You can't steal joy." "Then how do you get it?" the sorcerer demanded. "Well, it's different for every person. You have to find the thing that brings you joy. You're a sorcerer. Doesn't magic bring you joy?" "Well," thought the sorcerer, "it brings me power and money and fame, and it makes people afraid of me." "None of those things have anything at all to do with joy," said Amelia. "Hasn't there ever been anything that made you happy inside, like all the way down to the tips of your toes?" "Well, I once had a pair of mittens that were very, very soft," said the sorcerer. "They were pink and green. My grandma knitted them for me out of the softest yarn in the world. But I lost them, and no spell has ever brought them back." Amelia had an idea. "Sorcerer," she said, "would you like to learn how to knit? Because there's a whole big knitting circle at the UU Church in Littletown, and I bet they'd be happy to teach you." "Really?" said the sorcerer. "They'd do that for me?" And without realizing it, he'd begun to smile. "Well, you'd have to give us our colors and our smells and our music back," said Amelia. "It's a deal," said the sorcerer. And that is how the most powerful sorcerer in all the land joined the Saturday morning knitting circle at the UU Church of Littletown. He never cast an evil spell again. The people of Littletown never had to eat caterpillar pizza again. And everyone had warm mittens for the winter. And that is the story of the sorcerer who stole joy. Thank you for sharing it with us today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.